Today is gonna be a bit of a long session. We're gonna have approximately 3 breaks because it's gonna be parted into 3 parts. One of the most important concepts to start with is Linux user management, and this is what we're gonna start with today. So again, welcome to the Linux Week, day 3. And today we need to be like this guy. So we need our brains open, our eyes open, and our ears open. And hopefully not our mouth because we don't want to be surprised. Okay, so today we're going to talk about Linux user management. As I said, it's going to be into 3 parts. We're going to have 3 parts. So the first part, we're going to understand user management, why we need it, why do we have it, and what does the /etc means. As we said in the first, I guess, yes, first day, we have said that this is one of the most important paths that we have in Ubuntu or in Linux, like the root, the bin, the sbin, the boot, the div, the lib, the user, the home. etc is one of them also. So /etc. Also, we're gonna see and check out how we can manage users, like adding, modifying, and deleting them, as well as groups. So we're gonna see how to add group, add users to group, and then delete groups. Okay, then we're gonna understand in part 2, after we take our first break, we're gonna understand file permissions, like ownerships and permissions. We're gonna see why do we need file permissions. We're gonna see how to view permissions, and then we're gonna do a little bit of practical stuff right here. So we're gonna change permissions, change ownership, and change group ownership. And part 3 is going to be one of the easiest things to do in Linux are text editors. We're going to learn about the most common two, which is Nano and Vim. There is, I think, more than these. I forgot their names, but there is more than these two. So let's start by asking you guys, do you have any kind of idea of users, groups, and stuff in Linux? Like, can you give me what do you understand when I say users and groups in Linux? And yeah, before I start, I want to say thank you to Zaid Al-Shamti because he have solved the exercise in a very good way, and the answers were amazing. So thank you, Zaid, before I forget. Okay, so can anyone tell me anything about users and groups in Linux? Any kind of information? What do you do or what do you expect to know? You can speak in the chat if you want. Yes, Zaid.
Can you please clarify more the question? I didn't really get it.
When I tell you about users and groups in Linux, what do you get in your mind? What do you understand? Maybe if you know anything about them, tell me anything you know or anything you have in your head, you know? أي شيء بخطر في بالك أو إذا عندك معرفة سابقة لما أجي أحكي لك users and groups in Linux, just tell me. I just want to know your knowledge.
Well, the only thing I have is the administration thing that some tasks require like an administrator level. That's the only thing that I have about the user stuff.
Yes, this is actually a great starter. Some permissions and some commands need admin's approval or admin's command, let's say. So لما أغير البرميشن لفايل أو شيء معين بحدد شو بدي أغير من خلال البرميشن إذا كان read write. Yes, and also there is execute. Great. I only know a bit about the permission, like how to write them in the CMD. Okay, good, good. So we have a little bit of knowledge. So let's start by understanding what does user management mean in Linux. So it's one of the most essential stuff in Linux, as we said. It's also one of the most, let's say, parts that you really need to understand, especially if you want to be a system admin, because you're going to have a system, you're going to have groups, maybe groups of engineer, groups of developers. You need to manage these guys, and you're going to have a lot of users. You also have to manage these guys. So they're essential for maintaining system security and organizing access control. Access control, we're gonna hear this concept a lot, access control. So please understand what access control means. It's what kind of permission do you have, or what can you do in this kind of system? What can you do to this file? Can you read? Can you write? Can you execute? Can you comment? Can you it gives you the ability or the permission to do so. So every user has a unique credentials, of course, like every one of us has a national ID. I have a national ID that is different. No one has my national ID unless it's gonna be a very like I'd be surprised if someone had the same national ID as I do. Zed, do you want to say something?
No, sorry. My fault.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Okay, so every user needs to have a unique user ID, and we're gonna see it. It's called a UID or a user ID. And these user IDs are unique credentials and permissions to interact with the system. Okay, so we need to understand these key concepts. We have accounts, we have UIDs, as we said. User accounts are kind of individual entities with specific permissions and rights. So we can say like maybe access controls. Every user account has some kind of permission and some kind of ownership rights. Like what should they do? Should a developer have all the access to all the system? Should the admin have all the access to all the system? We also have something that's called a root user. So the root user have all the power and all the access to do so. Admins may have less permissions than the root user, and also when you get down, as much as you get down in the hierarchy of users, you get less and less permissions and ownership rights. Okay, user IDs, as we said, they're identifiers that are unique and assigned to each user. So every person in this world has a unique national ID number. It's the same in Linux. Okay, password management are handled via the etc path. We have also etc password and etc shadow. So shadow is more discrete than password. Password, I think it only gives you the username. Shadow gives you the passwords. Yes, here it is. So password contains user account informations, and shadow encrypted password information and password agent policies. And we're gonna see them right now. Maybe after we add users, or maybe right now, I don't know. Let's see. I think it's let's see them right now so we can understand. Let me share my Ubuntu screen. Okay. I hope you can see my Ubuntu screen. I just need to log in. Okay, great. Now I can't see anything. Come on. What's happening with you? Let me share my entire screen. Maybe it's gonna work. Did this just happen? Okay, maybe I'll restart the system. But maybe let's continue with the lecture. I think I'm gonna restart. Okay. Okay, I'm back. I guess restarting the virtual machine have made me restart my whole laptop for some reason. Okay, it's kind of starting. So let's hope it boots up very fast. So Alt, release that. I don't want that right now. Okay. So as we said, the /etc/password has the user information. They're not encrypted, so you can't see them in plain text. But the shadows are encrypted, so you're gonna see a ciphertext. You're not gonna see the password right in front of you. as Zaid said, there is some permissions that the root user or maybe a super user need to do, like adding users or maybe deleting users, because we shouldn't let anyone add or delete users as they like. So the structure of a super user is sudo command option something. Okay, so sudo is super user do, and we're gonna see it and managing. Let's see if our Ubuntu opened. Still booting. Boot faster. Okay, great. It's alive. Does anyone have any kind of question till now? Like, do you have any kind of question? If you do, please open the mic and talk, because I need to stay on the terminal right here until it boots up, apparently. Okay, please don't stop, please. Not today, I guess. Okay, I think it has opened. Great. So open the terminal, my dude. Can you see my terminal, guys? Let me. Okay.
Yes.
So as we said, thank you. As we said, we're gonna concatenate. This is from yesterday's lecture, or day 2. So we need to concatenate the path of etc and password. Oh, sorry, I wrote the wrong one. Okay, so cat, password, and stuff. So here we can see a lot of things, maybe. So here we can see that one of the users is me, Maya, in this group, and this user, home, and it's using bin bash. Also, there's a lot of stuff here that is all about configuration, because this is what /etc means. So if you said list, I'm sorry, list everything that is in the etc file, we're gonna see a lot of stuff. We're gonna see protocols, profile, group, I'm sorry, password. Here's the password that we saw earlier. So all kind of configuration. See .conf configurations and stuff. We're gonna see them in the etc file. So let's clear our page, and let's maybe try to cat etc shadow file. Oh, I'm sorry again. So see, the shadow file contain more encrypted about the password, so it's not gonna give me any kind of permission. So let's try sudo etc shadow. It's gonna ask me for a password. Let's hope I enter it right. Okay, so again, let me do it. Command F found, because I have entered the password wrong. Let's say again, cat maybe etc shadow. That's, I think I should put sudo in front. Okay. etc shadow, you see, it's kind of encrypted. This is a ciphertext. It's not going to give you any kind of information about my password. This is my password, by the way. It's a ciphertext. It's hashed. Also, those are one of the things you need to understand. It's hashed into these kind of symbols, and it's impossible to dig out my password from this ciphertext. Okay, so anyone has any kind of question till now? Like, did you understand the etc shadow, the etc password file, and the difference between them? Okay, great. So as you saw, because shadow has some kind of password and some kind of secrecy, you can just enter it as a normal user. You have to say sudo sudo cat. Here you see sudo cat, the file name, that's etc and shadow, and it has showed us a bunch of encrypted password information that is a ciphertext. Okay, so for the next part, we have understand a little bit about user management, why we need it, and how is it essential to the stuff, how is it essential to Linux, I'm sorry, and security, and this kind of stuff. So we're gonna go to managing users and managing group after this. So the first thing we're gonna understand is how to add a user, which is basically really simple. You either add a user add and username, and if you want to add a password, you can add a password. So let's try this command right now. Let's clear our page and let's try and add it without the sudo command. So let's say user add Alice maybe. So you see, permission denied, and you cannot add it because you're not a super user. So if you said sudo user add Alice, it did not give me permission denied, so it went through. So if we said sudo, no, not sudo, sorry, cat etc password, we're gonna see that we have added Alice into the group 1001, and also Alice is in the home, and it's a bin bash or bash shell script. Okay, so let's see what we have. I don't want to set a password. We don't need to do so, but we can do it by sudo password and the password, but I don't want to do so. Okay, so if you want to modify the user, you can use user mod, which is user modify, -l, new username and old username. So let's try this one. So user sudo user mod -l, and we said it's Alice, but we need to change her name, so we're gonna call it Noor because Noor is with us today, and Alice. So now if we showed our etc password file, we're gonna see that Noor is instead of Alice. You see here, it's instead of Alice. We have the name Noor. Okay. Now we're gonna delete that user. I'm gonna create another user and then delete it. So let's try and delete it without the sudo commands. User sudo Noor. It's gonna give me permission denied, as we said, because you're not a super user or a root user. The user delete Noor. Okay, great. So if we cat etc password, we're gonna see that Noor has disappeared from. I'm sorry, Noor, for deleting you, but we saw that it has disappeared from our password file. So let's add some users. Let's say sudo user add Alice again. Okay. I don't want to, but thank you. Sudo user Alice Noor. And maybe Sabine. So if we concatenate it again, we're gonna see now we have three. I'm sorry. Why do we have two? Where is Alice? I think we should have added Alice to the Alice group. It's fine. But we see that there is Noor and there is Sabine. And me, of course. Okay. So does anyone have any kind of question into managing users and their commands? They're basically easy. There's no kind of problem about them, I guess. Maybe a little bit hard. You can set a password if you want to. Yes, Omar?
Yes, I just wasn't here in the beginning of the class, so I didn't get the difference between the shadow and the password.
Oh yeah, of course. I'm gonna say it very quickly. So let me go back. So basically, this slide will like say everything. So etc password contains user account information. So these have the user account information, and it's in plain text, so you can see them as we saw right now in Sabine and Noor and Maya. But etc shadow file has the password information, so it's encrypted and it's in a hashed way. So I'm sorry, I opened Outlook, but it's fine. So if I said cat etc shadow, I'm sorry, etc shadow, it's gonna give me permission denied because you have to be a sudo user or a super user to do so. You have to be a root user or some kind of admin that have the privilege to do so. So we just enter sudo, which is super user do. Oh. Okay, late. So if we added sudo cat etc shadow, it's gonna ask for my, oh, not ask for my for my password. That's fine. So for me, I have a password on my virtual machine. So it gave me the password as an encrypted sign. Yeah, encrypted cipher, sorry. So it's hashed. You can't see my password. This is all my password. But for Noor and Sabine, we have not entered any kind of password. So in programming language, you know, the exclamation mark is not. So there is no password in here. So did you understand the difference between shadow and
Yes,
password
yes.
file?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, so we've managed and added and modified the user. Now we're gonna go to groups and we're gonna see how to manage groups. We're gonna see a few core concepts. Yes. So we have a few stuff we need to understand that a group is a logical collection of users, which like we know. We have these two, a primary group and a secondary group. So the default group that is assigned to a user is the primary group, and the secondary group is an additional group that you can add the user to. So as same as the user, we have group IDs, which are unique identifiers for the groups, and as well as etc shadow and etc password for user, there's etc group for group management. So let's check that out. Let's understand why we have a primary and secondary group. So if we cat etc password, we're gonna see the users we have right here right now. So the first numbers are the primary group, and the second number is the secondary group. So I can add myself to a secondary group, maybe to Sabine's group. So I can modify this to 1003, or as you see here, like this is 1001, and this is 2, this is 2, and this is 3. So basically, it says that Noor is her primary group is 1, and her secondary group is 2, and Sabine, her primary group is 2, and her secondary is 3. And if we added the user, it's going to be the same. So primary and secondary group. So let's imagine, why do we need these? So let's imagine you're part of a developer group and part of an engineer group, and you need to have both of these permissions. You need to have the permission to be an engineer and to be a developer. So maybe you put your primary group as your developer group and your secondary group as your engineer group. Okay, so let's say cat, I'm sorry. So let's clear our screen. Cat etc group. Okay, so here as we see that there is 3 groups, that Noor, her primary group is Alex, as we saw in earlier, I guess. And Sabine, her group is 1003, Noor is 1002, and Alice is 1001, and mine is 1000. Okay, so we need to add a new group. So it's basically like the user. Groups and users are kind of the same. You can add a password. I won't be doing that, but we're gonna add a group. So let's try and add a group without the sudo command. So group add, developers or devs, it's gonna give me that permission is denied, which is logical. So group add devs, it passed through. So if we said cat etc group, we're gonna see that devs is 1004 here. Okay. So let's add some users to these groups. Oh, I'm sorry. So if we tried user add without the user mod without the sudo command, it's not gonna work. It's gonna give me permission denied, but I don't want to keep doing it. So these kind of permissions that has that involves user management need to have some kind of permission, which is the super user command or permission. So let's do that. So sudo user mod -a and capital G, and please make sure there is capital because it is case sensitive. So let's add who to who. Let's add devs and Sabine. Let's add Sabine into devs. So now if we wanted to cat etc password, we're gonna see that Sabine have not changed, which is weird. Let me see why it have not changed clear. So again, to the user mode devs. Okay, so if we said cat etc group, gonna see, yeah, Sabine have been added to the devs group. So let's try and add maybe, I'm sorry, let's try and add Noor, so sudo user mod, which is modify ag. Let's add it. Let's add Noor to Sabine. Also, sorry, Sabine group, and let's add Noor into this group. So if we said cat etc group, we're gonna see that we have added Sabine into Noor's group. Or Noor have been added to Sabine's group, sorry. Noor have been added to Sabine's group. Okay. So as it's the same, if you wanna delete a group, it's the same user del or group del. So let's try and remove the devs. I don't like it, to be honest. So sudo group del devs. And then if we try to see the groups, we're gonna see that devs have vanished from our group file. Okay. So, for example, we have a quick example to sum everything up. We're trying to add a new group called engineers. So the group add engineers. Then we need to add a user John to engineers group. Of course, we have to add user John before, so we need to do adding user John, which is a sudo user add John. Then we can verify that John is a group of engineers. We can do that actually. So if we went back and saw, so let's say group Noor, so group Noor, not group, is it groups? It's groups, I'm sorry, groups Noor. So we're gonna see that Noor is in Sabine and Noor. So this is how we verify. And as we said, to delete it, we can do sudo group del engineers. So before we start our 5-minute break, does anyone have any kind of question till now? Seems like no one has any kind of questions. Is it understood? Is someone doing the practical work with me? Yes, Zaid.
Can you please make a quick review for all the commands, especially the first one, the shadowing, and they had like each command and what its functionality? Because I got lost with the all commands and stuff.
Yeah. I told you today will be a very long day, but it's gonna be a lot. So let me try and just okay, it's giving stop, go back. Okay, so let's go back to day 3. So okay, so if we want to check out, let's clear our page. So Zid, if we want to know usernames and user information, we go to password. It's kind of like different, you know. So if we said cat, let's do this, cat, etc password, and this is the path. So we're gonna see the users we have added earlier. Okay, so password, as here in the slides, password is user account information. But shadow, it contains password information. It's like in reverse, you know. Password doesn't contain any kind of password, but shadow contains password. And you need some special kind of permissions to enter the shadow file because logically no one should enter your password file. So even if you did, it should be encrypted. So it's not gonna show in plain text like in here. So here you see that Maya, it's in plain text. In bin bash, it's in plain text. Nothing is hashed or encrypted. I don't need a floppy disk, thank you. So if we said cat etc shadow, it's not gonna give us the permission to do so because no one should be able to enter your password file. So if we said sudo cat etc shadow, it's gonna ask you for your password, or it's gonna enter if you have entered your password previously. So me as a user, when I enter this virtual machine, I have to enter a password. So this is my password. It's long strings of number. It's called the ciphertext because it's hashed. Let me write this down. So ciphertext, which means it's hashed. It's a bunch of symbols. You can't understand anything. You're not gonna understand. Even if you try to reverse the hash function, you can't get the password out of this. But for Noor and Sabine, we have not entered any kind of password, so we have an exclamation mark, which is typically in programming language mean not. So exclamation mark equals not. So yeah, this is for etc. Yes, Amar.
I just want to ask, how's the virtual machine gonna know that you're a super user? Like when you type sudo, you're gonna enter a password or something, or what?
Yes. No, actually, when you enter sudo for the first time, it's gonna ask you for the password. But because I have done this command repeatedly, it did not ask me for a password. But for the first time, it will.
Oh, okay. So the password command doesn't show you your password?
Password command? What's the
Yes.
password command? You mean etc password?
Yes, etc password.
Okay, etc password is not a command, it's a path. So
Oh, okay.
it's a file, you know? It's not a command, it's a file. A file that contains your information. So if I had a file, like any kind of file, so let's say list etc alone, this etc file contains the password, contains, I don't think maybe shadow will appear, I don't know. Yes, so it contains shadow, it contains a lot of directories and a lot of stuff. So basically, slash etc file is where you store all configurations for everything, especially for users and passwords. But slash etc slash password shows you user information, not password information. But shadow does show you the password information. Encrypted, hashed. Okay. So this is for the etc shadow and etc password. So as we said, that sudo command is super user do. We also have a similar thing that some people don't talk about. So sudo is a super user. It is the root user. Like it's just the root user. So in group we have equally something called, I think, a wheel group. So this group is similar to sudo group. So if I added Noor or Sabine to the wheel group, let's see if I have it. So let's try and say cat etc group. I think wheel group will show. I think so. Uh, Damien root. So root is 0. If I added anyone to the group 0, he's gonna have access to everything. We're not gonna do that. Also, here's sudo. So I'm in the sudo group, as you see here. Here's my name, Maya. I'm not in the, but I'm not in the root group, which is interesting. Let's see. Wheel, wheel, wheel. I don't think I see wheel. If you see wheel, please tell me stop because I can't see properly. I see whoopsie. What's whoopsie? Okay, I don't think I see wheel, but there is certainly needs to be here. Shadow source. Yeah, I can't see wheel. I'm sorry. But typically, yeah, there's this thing that's called a wheel group, and it's equally as the sudo command. Okay. So let's go make a quick revision. So to add user, you just say user add. Sorry, you need the sudo permission to do so. You also need the sudo permission to do password. So if you want to add password, this is optional to add a password. Again, it's kind of basic English. So sudo user add username or sudo password, and you give the password. To modify it, you say user modify. Maybe you want to modify the username or the password, you can do so. And user delete with the username. You also need the sudo command to delete users. So let's say user mod. Let's just clear our page and let's see user mod or man or user mod. Let's see what kind of options do we have. So as we said, man is the manual thing. It's a manual page, and we have chose uh, here user mod. So it's modify a user account. The synapse is user mod option login. So it tells me the descriptions. We have every kind of option. So let's see. -L, it's the name of the user will be changed from login to new login. And nothing else is changed in particular. The user's home directory or MySQL should probably be remained manually to reflect the new user login. So if you want to lock a user, we can do capital L. If we want to move it, we can do -M. If we want to encrypt the password, we can say -P. -root. So there is a lot of ideas. So why we have put -L? -L is just to change the name of the user. So -G is the group name or number. So the group must exist. And here, why we put capital G? Because we want to change from a group to another group, as you see here. So -G, it's only from one group. It shows you the group ID. And capital G, it's to switch between two groups. So it's Q. Okay. So, and a quick revision into managing groups. We have said that we have primary and secondary group. We have GIDs and management file, which is contained in the etc group. So as same as the users, if you want to add a group and add password to that group, we can do sudo group add and sudo password. If we want to add users, sudo user mod ag, group name and username. And if we want to delete it, also group del as same as the username. And this example kind of wraps everything up. We have discussed this. Would you like me to discuss it more or again? Or everything is clear till now?
It's clear for me. Thank you for the review.
No, that's I hope you understand. So let's take a 5-minute break and stop the recording. So we'll take stop recording. So let's take a